Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
It is time to work back on our body, our spirit, our mind, and everything in between, right? Keith Good joining us here again. He is our energy healer from Billings, Montana, but he's helping people all over the world as a Reiki master, Reiki master, healer, spiritual mentor, meditation guide, crystal healer, chakra healer. He wears many hats. And the good thing about Keith, he's very, very informative at Goods Holistic Services, telling us all the time about all the work that he could do to help you find your own clarity and help us through. So first and foremost, good to have you back, Keith. And the pun is on good for Keith Good. How are you?
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here today. Welcome to all the audience and everybody that's out there.
Thank you.
You can reach me at goodsholistichealing.com. info@goodsholistichealing.com is an email. And 406-272-6006.
Beautiful. Well, one thing you've taught me over the past, few months of speaking with you is about really this universe, this energy in the universe is here to help us, right? And I think you call it Mother Earth, right? Is always there to help us through and our changing. And I know that's the mind, the body, and spirituality, which I know you want to kind of continue on today. So tell us a little more about this, and we'll definitely dive into more intricate conversation today.
Well, let's do a small, real recap of the last 2 weeks, because this is a continuation of that.
Yes.
And 2 weeks ago, we talked about just the basics of questioning everything, and being talked about living in a dualistic world, and how a person can start their spiritual path just by questioning whatever it is that they have questions about in their belief system. And that becomes very important. And then how to balance it. And we also spoke a little bit about that everybody has their own path. And we're going to expand a little bit on that own path, just a hair today.
Sure.
Last week, we spoke about spirit being omnipresent, and about contemplating and meditating to connect with spirit. We also spoke about the light and dark wolf, and we spoke about there are different ways of going about it. It doesn't mean that every person out here has their own way of going about their spiritual path. And I think that's important for us to understand, because, and that leads us into one of the things we want to talk about today, is the fact that because everybody has their own path, it's rather confusing to people when we say we are all part of one, but yet we feel like an individual.
Yeah, sometimes feel alone too. Yeah.
Right. And we are all individual, but we're only individual aspects of the whole. So that's where we can get our individuality from. That's where we get our individual paths from, is the individual aspect. I think that's important to know, but because we are all one, it's important for us to accept everybody's path for who they are, and not say, well, you have to be going this way, my way, or you have to be following this religion, or you have to be following this faith. It's really, everybody has their own path. Yeah. And we cannot determine what their path is. And that's why I say that religion oftentimes, at least the religions of today, oftentimes try to tell us how to believe instead of letting us try to learn how to believe on our own. Instead of giving us guidance, they give us this way to believe, or what to have faith in and what not to have faith in. And I think it's important, like I said, to accept everybody's path for what it is, and not judge their path, understanding that they've had their
own fair
assuming
share
that a person believes in, their share. We don't know what everybody's gone through. One person has gone through hell with an abusive father or mother. Another one has a drug addict and has fetal alcohol syndrome. But we don't know how to confront that if we're not there. Another one has just any number of things. And one person's been in a car accident that has left them paraplegic, or was born without a sight, or was born without something else. You know, I myself was born with a birth defect that I had to have an operation at 4 days old, and it was corrected, and I've lived a normal life. But the point is, none of us know what each other's past has been, and so we can't tell them how to walk this path that they're on.
And stop being so quick to judge. I think a lot of us are guilty of doing that, guilty myself as well, that, we need to be a little more understanding and open to each individual's needs, and because everybody is different, everybody is unique, and that's the way the world, the God, the whoever you believe in, the creator, it's supposed to be. We're all unique, right? Let's embrace it. Let's embrace that.
Yes, and I think that I don't remember if I said it on here or if I said it on the YouTube channel, but at one point in my life, when I was first starting into this, I used to drive down the road. Now, mind you, I was a professional driver for 30-some years, and I sat higher than everybody else.
Race car driver or truck driver? Just remember it. I remember.
Truck driver and bus driver. And you would always sit higher than the other vehicles, and you could look down in them and see the people in the vehicles. And I can remember judging those people just by their looks, and I never even knew them. And then one day I changed my way of thinking, and I looked down and I'd see somebody that wasn't appealing to me, and I'd say, and she's a spirit, and he's a spirit, and that changed my whole way of thinking about each person. This one's not too fat, or not too skinny, not facially has facial defects and so forth. They're all just spirits, and that's the way they appear to us. So
I'm tearing up, Keith. This is what I tell my children all the time. They're 7 and 9, and they're learning and they're hearing. And the other day, they said, "Oh, that boy is fat." And my heart broke for that little angel child that was at the pool. I said, "He does have some extra fat on him, but that's not him. He's a beautiful soul." I said, "That's just his body." I'm trying to destigmatize, how we grew up, and someone might have said that. My parent might have said, "Oh, that person's fat." Trying to change our view about the person. You're right. It's our beautiful spirit and soul, and that's just the body they're encased in. There's nothing wrong with that body. It's just different than ours, and I try to instill that in my children, Keith.
Yes, and actually the last job I had before I retired from regular work was...
You do a lot of work. You're a busy man. Like I said, wears many hats.
Yes, but I used to drive what they called, was it called a paravan, meaning disabled. So I would haul house door to door, not even in a bus route. I drove for the city, and I would pick up these people who were not just functionally disabled, but also disabled physically. And some of them might have cerebral palsy, some might have Down syndrome, some might have whatever. I don't know what they all have. And while I was taking them back and forth to wherever they needed to go, I realized that they are the truest and most pure-spirited people I've ever had, because they didn't care about what you thought about them. They didn't care about what they looked like or what the other person looked like. They would go to a workshop where there would be 10, 20 other people with different disabilities, as we call disabilities, and they would just put up with them. They would just tolerate everything that went on. One person screaming in the background, another person complaining, another person walking in a walker or in a wheelchair, or not being, slobbering all over themselves while they're eating, and they just accepted it as that's the way it is. And to normal people, to you and me who can drive down the road and go to Walmart or go to the grocery store or they're disabled to us. But in a spirit form, I think they're more advanced.
Yeah.
Because they're non-judgmental.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a real big eye-opener for me that these people, just were so pure-spirited. And I think that's what we have to start training ourselves to be. And I admire you, Joe, for what you just said, because it's very difficult for a parent to counter what you hear from what your kids hear in school. Because your boy's friends told them that this boy was fat.
And they're exactly. Yep.
So that's their peer pressure and their conditioning from outside sources. So it's difficult for a parent to do something with that.
It really is. We could only try our best to keep reiterating and try to teach them, and I take them to church and I let them hear other people talk about the kindness to others and how we're unique and different. And you just hope that they'll learn, that the peer pressure to stay away from that as they grow, right? We can only do our best as parents, Keith.
That's exactly right. Matter of fact, my father told me one time, and he had a PhD in philosophy or in theology. Actually, I don't know. He went to Yale anyway, but he was a religion professor at a college, and he taught all religions, not just one religion. He taught Hinduism and Buddhism and matter of fact, he took a sabbatical and went to India, and he took a sabbatical and studied American Indian philosophies and so forth. So he was, to me, he was a scholar. But anyway, he one time said to me when it came, and I was older, I was no longer a child. And he said, the best thing we can do as a parent and the best we can hope for is that we raise our children so that they have the morals that they should have when they're grown up.
Yeah.
We can't really teach them everything that needs to be done, and we can't expect them because they are individuals and they do have their path on this earth. We can't expect them to do everything we have taught them. But if they have good morals and are staying in being productive in society, that's the best we can do.
Yeah.
And I've never forgotten that, because he felt he was a failure at times, but he wasn't. And that's because not of what he said, but the actions he took. And that's what's important, is the actions we take. So the more spiritual our actions are, the more we will put them out to the people around us, including children or partners, whatever it is. That's what's the most important, is our actions. And that sort of goes into the next little thing that I had here about when we were talked last week about feeding the light wolf and feeding the dark wolf. And we talked about, well, if we only feed the light wolf an hour a week by going to church, and then we come out of there and we go back to our daily business, or we only study for an hour, 2 hours a week, or 5 hours a week, we still have all those other hours that we are spending not feeding that light wolf.
Yeah.
So we're feeding the dark wolf. So what this does, there's two things I wanted to bring out on that. Is number one, we have to change our lifestyle.
Yep.
It's a lifestyle change that brings us into spiritual seeking. It's a lifestyle change that brings us to understanding. And people always say to me, well, I don't have time. That is my biggest complaint when I get this.
Yeah.
And my first question is to people, how much time do you spend watching TV on whatever's on? Instead of watching the zombies or whatever's on, I haven't watched TV in years. Do some study.
Okay.
Watch a spiritual documentary. Go on to Gaia TV, which has tremendous amount of information for spirituality. Go on to read a book. You have time. You just don't. People just don't delegate it. Mm-hmm. They want the entertainment of the world instead of the spiritual seeking that they're supposed to have.
Yeah.
Swahi Yogananda says, and this is a common thing in India, I guess. He says we have 24 hours in a day, so 8 of it is supposed to be for working or toiling. 8 of it is supposed to be for spiritual work, and 8 of it is supposed to be sleeping.
Yeah.
So that gives you your 24 hours instead of going out and watching the TV, coming home from work after your 8 hours of toiling. Mm-hmm. You should be doing something spiritual instead of sitting down. And to me, spiritual stuff is very relaxing, and it creates me to contemplate. I'll walk outside after reading several pages of a book because I have to let that digest and soak in, and I'll walk outside and just think about all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lifestyle change. You have to take, and it's not something that you're going to do. You're not going to sit down and say, okay, I'm going to take 8 hours off and just do this. It's something you say, okay, instead of watching this tonight, I'm going to read this book. Instead of going out and playing something that is not necessarily something that I have to do, I can stay home and do something else, or I can teach my kids spiritual stuff, or I can experience spiritual stuff and look at them and see how spiritual they are, or other people around me, and start looking at things, because it's not always about studying, as we spoke before, and it's not always about watching the TV, watching the documentaries and so forth. Sometimes it's about looking at a person, looking at people around you, and just bringing in what their spirit has to tell you. I can go to a restaurant, and I always whenever I go to a restaurant to eat, I always sit where I can watch people.
I was going to say, you must walk into a room and be able to sense what people are thinking, feeling, which is cool, but does it get overwhelming at times? Do you feel like, or no, you just love it? Do you actually approach some of these people too and tell them your insights, or do you keep away?
Pretty much I keep away, and I'm not a real empath, so I don't feel a lot of their feelings and stuff, but I can look at them and say, I can determine whether they are more on the spiritual side, more on the earthly side, if they are more dark than light, if they are more light than dark. I get a lot of people who approach me in a manner, I don't mean approach me physically, but approach me as I walk by. They'll give me a big smile that they don't give to other people, and that's, as we spoke before, that's our spirit speaking to spirit, basically saying namaste. And but if you just watch people, even little children. Last night we went out to dinner, and these little kids were running around with their mom, and just to watch them and see how free-spirited a child is. When we talk about being childlike to become spiritual, we don't mean being childish.
Got it.
It means being childlike, being amazed at everything, at all of creation. I remember the first time my son and I drove to Atlantic City on a tour bus, and how excited he was to see all those lights for the first time in Atlantic City. Because we grew up in a town that didn't have lights. It had street lights and stuff, but I mean, no big neon signs all over the place and everything. And that's what being childlike is, being amazed at everything, being amazed at the trees that are around you, the brush that's around you, the children that are around you, the other people around you. That's where you start becoming more spiritual. You realize your connectedness to the whole universe.
The world. There goes my yeah, exactly.
Just never lost you.
Yeah, see when you said the word lost, the camera went.
So is it that late already?
No, we still have 7 minutes. No. We are good. And I got to remind everyone, goodsholistic.healing.com. Yes, he's our Reiki practitioner, energy healer here. And there's so much that he could do to help you anywhere around the world via Zoom like we are doing today here. And I just want to point out, if you want to contact him, do you want to share the phone number as well?
406-272-6006.
So let's see, we left off talking about the children running around, you people reading people. Does that make sense? People reading? Yeah, I guess it does.
Yep. Yes, it is. It is. It's actually spirit talking to spirit, but
yeah. And I mean, by the way, you also work with children too. You do Reiki with children, with teenagers as well, and energy healing too.
I can. I have not done a lot of it lately, and I ought to bring that out real quick. In the fact that my biggest business these days is spiritual mentoring.
Okay.
I do more spiritual mentoring than I do anything else. And with that said, I want to also mention that this YouTube channel, all you have to do is go onto YouTube and Google Good Holistic Healing. You'll find my YouTube channel. And it is basically a free spiritual mentoring session, every one of them. Mm-hmm. It talks about different things of spirituality. So I don't have a lot of followers, but I'm not in this for followers. I'm in this for the one person or the three people that will get something out of this and then can share with other people. I mean, I'd love to have the followers, but that's the way, subscribers, whatever you want to call it. But I'm here because Spirit's calling me to be here. I'm not here to make $1 million. I'm here to help you. And all these other things that I do are geared toward bringing you to the point of spiritual seeking, to start moving the energy through Reiki, to give you an inspiration through the Akashic records, to do these different things that we have, that I offer, are all to get you to a point of spiritual seeking and seeing what's going on. There's much more to spiritual seeking than just thinking you're doing it. Energies have to move. If energies aren't moving in your body, then oftentimes you don't always get the inspirations or the way of dealing with things that brings you out further into your seeking process. So we talked about the waste of time. Let's talk about, we only got a few minutes left, so let's just real quick talk about prayer. We talked last week about praying for other people.
Mm-hmm.
But now let's talk about prayer to your spirit guides, prayer to the angels.
Yeah.
Because if we don't pray to them, it's sort of like a 16-year-old kid coming into your living room and not saying a thing, but he wants the keys to the car.
Yeah.
But you're not going to ask for them. And you're not going to give them to him unless he asks for them.
True.
A lot of times that's what your spirit guides, your higher power, your angels are waiting for you to ask a question. They're not going to just sit there and say, okay, here it is.
Mm-hmm.
They want you to request something from them. They want you to request their help, their mentorship, their guidance. Because it's your free will that has to say, I'm ready. They're not just going to offer it. So, excuse me. So let's keep in mind that we have to work with prayer in many ways, not just in the aspect of praying for others or praying to God. We also have to remember that there are things that happen that we don't even aware of. So when I thank my higher power for helping me, I thank him for all the things that I don't even know he's doing behind the scenes.
Which I'm sure is a lot because, right, then the path and the journey would be different. Yeah, but we can't see it all the time.
We don't have a clue of the big picture. We're on Earth.
Yeah.
So we don't always see that. So we have
to be grateful, be thankful, and that's part of my morning routine. Waking up and thanking
if
the universe.
You can't read what's behind me here, but I'll bring them out the next. That's the 5 principles of Reiki.
Oh.
And I'll bring them out next week.
Okay. My vision's not that good.
I can't hear. It would be backwards to me anyway. But I'll bring those 5 principles forward next time we talk.
Beautiful.
Because we're out of time today. But I'll bring those five principles forward. But one of them is being grateful. So that's what made me think about that when you said being grateful. So we have to thank. We have to thank as much as we have to ask. Actually, we should thank more than we ask. Because there's so many things to be thankful for.
Yeah.
We can be thankful for the birds in the sky for having the music they make.
Yeah.
We can be thankful for the air we breathe. We can be thankful for all kinds of small little things as well as the big things.
Yeah.
A roof over our head and clothes on our back. So.
And it's like karma, right? In a sense, it's like karma too, right? Kind of, right? What you're practicing, what you're thinking, what you're giving out kind of comes back to you in the universe. Do you believe in that, Keith?
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't, karma in itself is a whole at least a half of an episode to talk about.
All right. Then we'll save it for part next time because we are out of time, Keith. But always a pleasure having you here. And if we want to reach out to you to work with you, remind us how we could do so again.
Okay, we go to goodsholistichealing.com.
Mm-hmm.
info@goodsholistichealing.com and 406 272-6006. And don't forget about the free hour consultation.
Guys, that's a free hour consultation. That's pretty amazing. Take advantage of it. That's a great offer from you. Thank you. A man who wears many hats, from truck driver to bus driver to holistic healer to, gotta ask with that voice, do you happen to sing as well? It seems like you got a great country voice. No?
I cannot carry a tune.
But you got this deep voice. I could picture you rock it out to a guitar. But see, we don't have all talents, right? But I
was a drummer, though.
There you go, musician. I'm sure you could sing. All right, Keith, thank you so much for being here, and looking forward to reading a little closer of those 5 Reiki principles next time we speak, okay? Have a great day.
Thank you, and everybody have a great day themselves.
Great to have you back. Bye-bye. Good to have you back. Bye.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. I came out in the 11th grade. Nobody was embracing you. The kids were cruel. It was very difficult to be gay. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma.
The hard part was determining that I was going to do it, but I definitely didn't do it alone.
At age 30, with the help of her mentor, Carissa finished her high school diploma.
I have a mentor, Maria. She convinced me to continue my education
And to finish what I started to get my diploma.
Just never judges. She's a true role model. If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, go get it. You can do it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.